Hey, before we get started each and every sale day here in Okeechobee, we always try to do it right and go to the Lord in prayer. Join me if you will. Dear Lord, we come today. We come today to ask you to watch over us, to keep us safe, Lord, to watch over the ones handling the animals today, to watch over our way home, Lord, just to steer us clear of selling. In We've got several pieces of literature out. Of course, there's a sheet out. It's just a plain sheet like this. It's got each bull's EPDs and all on it. Same thing basically in the category, but it's all on one paper. If that helps you to find them any quicker, we'll the yellow paper. I don't know if all of you got one of those. Yeah, those are white paper. The ones that everybody got those that wants them. If not, we'll get some more. And then the yellow paper kind of tells us what order the bulls are going to come in. Oh, okay. Mine's yellow, theirs is white. Pretty hard today. Just a regular sale, guys. Get right in. Be sure that we pick you up. Matt's going to help me. Jeff's going to help me. We'll do our best to pick up each and every bid. However, we are humans and we do make mistakes. If Jeff happens to have somebody there and I've got somebody over yonder and I sell out, well, we'll open it back up to make sure that we get it took care of. Um, did everybody get checked in the office? Got them a green card to kind of help us know who some of you are? I'm Jeff, and Matt knows most of you. Unfortunately, I don't know most of you guys. All right. I'm ready when you guys are ready. Bring a bull. 46 will be the bull. All right, here we go, and sell a bull right here. Everybody, $8,000 and $8,000, everybody, $8,000, $8,000, everybody, $8,000, $8,000, everybody, $7,000 and $7,000, everybody, $7,000, $7,000, everybody, $6,000. $6,000 everybody, 6,000. Now 2.5. I got 6,000, 62.5, and now 5. 65, everybody, 7 high. 67 high, everybody, $7,000. 7,000, everybody, 7, 7,000, everybody, 67 high, 7,000. $7,000, everybody, 7. 67 high, 7,000. $7,000, everybody, 7,000. Sold the bull, 67.50. Lane Merrill. Oh, okay. Good to see you. Not usually on that side. You're usually over there if you come picking up. 6-6 will be my bull. And everybody $7,000. Is $7,000. Everybody is 7,000. $7,000. Everybody is $6,000. $6,000. Everybody is 6,000. 6,000. Everybody is 6,000. $6,000. Everybody is 6,000. 5,500. 57 high. 55 7 high, everybody high, 55 7 high, everybody high, 57 high, everybody high, 55 to be at 7 high, 57 high, everybody high. Now $6,000 and $6,000, everybody. I got 57 high, 6,000, 62 high, 62 and high, everybody high, 62 high, 62 and high, everybody high, 6,000, 2 and high, 62 and high, everybody high. Sold the bull, 6,000. We was up there, weren't we? Yes. Dixie Ranch. 22. 22 will be the bull. And everybody is 7,000. 7,000. Everybody is 7,000. 7,000. Everybody is $6,000. And $6,000. Everybody is 6,000. 6,000. Everybody is 55. 55 7 high. 5,500. 57 high. Everybody high. 5,500. 5,500. Everybody 5. 5,500. Everybody 57 high. 55 7 high. 57 high. Everybody high. Everybody high. 55 7 high. Everybody $6,000. And $6,000. I got 57 high, 6,000. $6,000. 6,000. 57 high. Now 6,000. $6,000. 6,000. 6,000. 57 high will be $6,000. Sold above 57.50. Corona cattle. 35. Bull 35. And right there we go. Everybody. Well, get right on these bulls, boys, and go. 6,000. Now go. $6,000. $6,000. $6,000. $6,000. $6,000. $6,000. Now two and high. 6,000. Two and high. Everybody high. 60. Two and high. Now 5. 65. I got two high. 5 7 high. 67 high. You're out, sir. 67 high. Everybody high. I got 65, 7 high. 67 high, $7,000. And $7,000. Everybody is 7. 67 55, 7,000. $7,000. Everybody is 67 high, 7,000. $7,000. Everybody is 7,000. Sold a bull, 67.50. SL Cattle LLC. Do what? 5L, I'm sorry. 57 will be my bull. 57 will be the bull. I don't mean to get so fast, guys. I hope I can let y'all get to your cards that you're looking at to make sure you get the EPDs. If I need to slow down, let me know. And $6,000. And $6,000. Everybody is 6,000. $6,000. Everybody is 6,000. $6,000. Everybody is 6,000. $6,000. Everybody is 5,500. 5,500 now, everybody 55, 7 high, 55, 7 high, now $6,000, 57 high, $6,000, everybody 57 high now, $6,000, everybody 6,000, 6,000, who be 6,000, everybody now 2 and high, 60, 2 and high, everybody high, I got 6,000, 2 and high, now 5, 65, everybody 62 and high, 5, 6,500, everybody 62 and high, 5. 6,500, everybody 62 and high now, 5. 6,500, sold a bull, 62.50. Masioka. 61. 61 will be next up. And everybody, $6,000. And $6,000 bid. 6,000 now 2 and a half. 6,000 2 and a half. Everybody high. I got 6,000 2 and a half. 60 2 and a half now 5. 65 7 half. 67 high. Everybody now $7,000. Now 2 and a half. 72 and a half now 5. 75 everybody 5. 72 and a half 5. $7,500 everybody 5. 7 half. 77 $8,000. $8,000 everybody 8. 77 half 8. $8,000 everybody 8,000. 77 half now 8,000. $8,000 everybody 8,000. 77 half 8,000. $8,000 everybody 8,000. Sold the bull 77.50. Cow Creek. $63. Oh, there's a big old bull. 63 will be the bull. And everybody, $8,000. $8,000 we paid, everybody 8,000. $8,000 everybody paid, everybody 8,000. $8,000 everybody paid, everybody 6,000. And 2 and high, now 2 and high 5. 65, 7 high, now $7,000 bill, now 2 and high. 72 and high 5. 75, everybody 5. 75, everybody 77 high. 8,000. $8,000 everybody 82 and high. 82 and high, everybody high, everybody high. 82 and high. 82 and high. 82 and high. I got 8,000. 82 and high. 82 and high, everybody high, everybody 5. 85, 85. I got 82 and high, 85. 8,500. 8,500. Now 7 high. 87 high. Pretty high and pretty high. We got 85, 87 high, 85, 7 high, 85, 7 high. Sold the bull, 8,500. 8,500. Peoples. 27. 27 will be next. Everybody, 6,500. $6,500, 6,500, 65, $6,500, 55, 55, 7 high, 55, 7 high, 6,000, now 2 and a half, 62 and a high, and pretty high, I got 6,000, 2 and a half, 62 and a high, and pretty high, 6,000, 2 and a half, 62 and a high, and pretty high, 6,000, 2 and a half, and pretty high, 62 and a half, 6,000 and 2 and a half. Sold the bull, 6,000. TCF. 42 will be my next bull. 42. And right here, $6,000. And $6,000, $6,000. $6,000, $6,000. 6,000, ready to get 5,500. $5,500, 55, 7 high, 55, 7 high, you 55, 57 high, 57 high, $6,000, and $6,000, number 2 high, 62 and high, and pretty high, and pretty high. I got 6,000, 2 and high, 62 and high, and pretty high, and pretty high, 6,000, 2 and high, 62 and high, and pretty high, and pretty high, 6,000, 2 and high, 6,000, 2 and high, and pretty high, and pretty high, 6,000, 2 and high, and pretty high, 6,000, 2 and high. Sold the bull, 6,000. We was here, weren't we? Yes, Corona. 47. That'll be my next bull. And pretty bull, 47. And pretty $6,000. $6,000, $6,000. $6,000, 55. 55, 7 high, 55, 7 high, and pretty $6,000 and $6,000 now 2 and high, 2 and high, and pretty high, 5. We got 5, 65, pretty high, 7 high, 67 high, 6,500, 7 high, 67 high, and pretty high, 65, 7 high, 67 high, and pretty high, 65 and 7 high, 67 high, and pretty high, and pretty high. Sold the bull, 6,500. Masioka. 33 will be my bull. 33 will be the bull right here. And everybody $6,000 and $6,000. Be 6,000. 6,000, 2 and high. I got 6,000, 2 high, 5. 65 now 7 high. 7 high, 7,000. $7,000, 7 2 high. 72 and high. 7,000, 2 and high. Top of the house, 7,000, 72 and high. 7,000, 2 and high, and pretty high, 72 and high, and pretty high, 5. 75, and pretty high, and pretty 5. 72 and high, 5, 7 high. 77 high, 75, 7 high. 77 high, and pretty high, 7,500, 77 high, and pretty high. 75 and 7 high. Sold the bull, 7,500. No, we up top. You knew you were out, right? You knew you were out. Yeah, we're up there. I can't read it. Triple S. 36. And lot number 36 will be the bull. Our ear tag number. And here we are. Everybody $6,000. And $6,000. $6,000. $6,000. $6,000. $6,000. $6,000. 2 and a half. 6,000. 2 high now 5. 65. 7 high. 7 high. 7,000. $7,000. $7,000. 67 high. 7,000. $7,000, 7. 67 high now 7. $7,000, 7,000. 67 high now 7,000. $7,000, 7,000. Sold the bull, 67.50. Duncan Ranch. $62 will be my bull. And sell him, $6,000. And too high. 6,000, two and a high, two and a high, and pretty five, 7 high, 7,000. Now two and a high, 72 and a high, 7,000, two and a high, 72 and a high. I got two high fives, 7,500, 7,500, 77 high, 75, 7 high. I got 7,500, 77 high, and pretty high, and pretty high, 75, 7 high, 75, 77 high, and pretty high, and pretty high, 75 and 7 high. Sold the bull, 7,500. Bronson cattle. Lot 40 is what they're calling. That'll be him. And sell him 6,000. $6,000, $6,000. Get to him. $6,000. 6,000. $6,000. $6,000. 6,000. $6,000. 55. 55, 7 high. 55, 7 high. 57, 6,000. 6,000. 57 high. 6,000. And $6,000. Now two and a half. 2 high 5. $6,500. 62 and a half high. $6,500. 65 now 7 high. 6, 7 high. 65, 7 high, and pretty high, and pretty high. I got 65, 7 high. 67 high, and pretty high, and pretty high. 65 and 7 high. 67 high. Sold the bull, 6,500. Dunkin' Buzz. 6060. He's ready to go to work. Everybody, 6,500, 7,000, 65, 67 high, 65, 7 high, and pretty high, and pretty high. $7,000, 7,000 now, 2 and high, 72 and high, now 5, 75, 7 high. 77 high. I got 75, 7 high. 77 high and pretty high, and pretty high. 77 high, 770 high. 75, 77 high. I got 75 from Bronson. 77 high. 77 high. 75, 7 high. 77 high and pretty high, and pretty high. 75, 7 high and pretty high. 75, 77 high. Sold the bull, 7,500. Bronson. Lot 10. There's a big 1,825-pound bull. All right, we go into the older bulls. They've been used one season. They've been back in. They've been retested. Everything, guys. They're ready to go. All right, sell a big bull. Like I say, weigh 1,830. And right here, $10,000. Here, 10, $10,000. $10,000, $10,000, $10,000, $10,000, $10,000, $10,000, $10,000, $8,000. $8,000, $8,000, $8,000, $8,000, $8,000, $7,000, $7,000, $7,000, where we'll hit the ground, 6,000 and 2 and a half, 6,000, 2 and a half, 62 high, 6,000, 2 high, 5, 65, 7 high, 67 high and pretty high, and $7,000 and 2 and a half, 72 and a high and pretty high, and pretty high, 72 and a half. I got 7,000, 2 and a half, 72 and a half and pretty high, 7,000, 2 and a half, 72 and a half and pretty high. 72 and a half. Now 5, 75, 7 high, 77 high, $8,000, 82 and a half, 82 and a half, 8,000, 2 and a half. Now 5, 85, 87 high, 87 high, 85, 7 high, 85, 7 high, 85, 87 high, and pretty high, and pretty high. Sold the bull, 8,500. Overstreet, 8,500. Bull 11. Good gracious, what a bull. 1855, 1860, right on that boy. And right here, $8,000. 8,000 to go. $8,000 be available. 8,000. $8,000 be available. 8,000. $8,000 be available. 65. 6,500. 7 high. 65. 7 high. And pretty high. And pretty high. 67 high. Now 7,000. 7,000. 2 and a half. 72 high. 5. 75. 77 high. 8,000 now. 2 and a half. 82 and a half. 82 and a half. I got 8,000 here. 82 and a half. 85. 85. 87 high. 87 high. And pretty high. And pretty high. 87 high. 87 half up top. You want that? 87 half. 87 high. 85, 7 high, and pretty high, and pretty high. Sold the bull, 8,500. Peoples. Lot 17. Pushed down hard. 21.30 right on him. 21.30, a big boy right there. I'll get the job done there. And everybody, $8,000. $8,000 we give everybody $8,000. $8,000 we give everybody $8,000. $8,000 we give 65. 65, 7.5. 67, $7,000 now, 2.5. 75, 77, 8,000. 8,000, 2.5. 82.5, 5. 85, 7.5. 87.5. $9,000. 9,000. 9,000, pretty 9, pretty 9, 87 high now 9. Think about it, 9, pretty 9, pretty 9, 87 high now 9, 2.5, 92.5, 9,000, 2.5, 92.5, pretty high, pretty high, 9,000, 2.5, 90 high. We up top, 9,000, 2.5, pretty high, pretty high, 92.5. Sold the bull, 9,000, 5L. 18 will be my bull. And 2050 will be the weight. 2050 and 8,000. $8,000. $8,000. $8,000. $8,000. $8,000. And 7.5. 65. 7.5. $7,000 now. 2.5. 75. 7.5. 77.5. I got 75. 7.5. 77. 8,000. 8,000. 2.5. 82.5. 5. 85. 7.5. 87.5, 85, 7.5, 87.5, 85, 7.5, 8,500, 87.5, 85, 7.5. I got 85, 87.5, pretty high, 85 and 7.5. Sold the bull, 8,500. Overstreet. Lot number 4. Yeah, there is a 14. Excuse me, 14. 1975, right on that bull. 215 or 20 probably. Yeah. Over $2 on salvage. That's 4 or 5 years down the road on salvage, I hope, but I hope they're still worth $2. But I tell you what, he's worth $8,000 a day and go. 8,000, come on, $8,000 be everybody 8,000. $8,000 be everybody 8,000. $8,000 be everybody. Say down 2.5. Thank you, sir. 8,000, 2.5. 82.5, 5, 85, 85, 85, 87 high, $9,000, $9,000, pretty 9, pretty 9, 9, pretty 9, pretty 9, 87, 9, 9,000. I got 87.50, $9,000, $9,000, pretty 9, pretty 9, 87 high now, $9,000, pretty 9, pretty 9, 87 high now, 9,000. Sold the bull, 87.50, Overstreet, 87.50. 16 will be my bull. 1,800 pound right on him. And $8,000. 82.5. I got 8,000. 82.5. 82.5. Pretty high. 82.5. 85 now. 7.5. 87.5. 87.5. Pretty high. Pretty high. 85. 7.5. 87.5. I got 8,500. 87.5. 87.5 now. 9,000. $9,000, pretty 9, pretty 9, 87 high now 9, $9,000, pretty 9, pretty 9, 87 high now 9,000, pretty 9, pretty 9,000, 87 high 9, $9,000, pretty 9, pretty 9, pretty 9, 87 high. Want to give 9,000? Sold the bull, 87.50. It was 5L, wasn't it? $13 will be my bull. 18.50 right on him. $8,000. $8,000. $8,000. $8,000. $8,000. $8,000. $7,000. $7,002.5. I got 7,072.5. 7,002.5. 77 high. And 77 high. Pretty high. 75. 7 high. $8,000. $8,000 too high. 82.5. Pretty high. Pretty high. I got 8,000 now. 2.5. 82.5. 8,000. 2.5. 8,000. 2.5. Pretty high. Pretty high. Now 5. 85. 8,000. 7 high. 87 high. 85. 7 high. Now 9,000. 9,000 now 2.5. 92.5. Pretty high. Pretty high. 9,000. 2.5. 9,000. 2.5. Pretty high. Pretty high. 9,000 and 2.5. Sold the bull, 9,000 Overstreet. 9,000. 15 will be my bull. Look at that boy. 1870 right on him. And I'm pretty, 8,000. $8,000. 8,000. 8,000 now 2.5. I got 8,000. 82 and a half. Pretty high. 8,000. 2.5 now 5. 85. I got 82 and a half now 5. 8,500. Pretty 5. 82 and a half now 5. $8,500 pretty 5. You did 82.50 right? 82 and a half. Right? You did 82 and a half now 5. I thought so. 85 pretty 5. 82 and a half 5. $8,500 pretty 5. 85. Sold the bull, 82.50. Peoples buys again. Peoples, 5,959. And 59 will be the bull coming. He's $6,000. And $6,000 is 6,000. $6,000 is 6,000. $6,000 $6,000 is 6,000. $6,000 $5,500. $5,500 now 7.5. 55 7.5. $6,000 and 6,000. 2.5. 2.5. 5 7.5. 67 pretty high. 65 7.5. 67 pretty high. 6,500 and 7.5. 67 pretty high. Sold the bull 6,500. Sanders Ranch. And sell him. And pretty good, $6,000. And $6,000 is 6,000. 6 too high. Too high 5. 65 7 high. 67 high. $7,000 now 2 and high. 72 and high. 75 7 high. 77 high and pretty high. 75 7 high. $8,000. $8,000 pretty 8. 77 high 8,000. $8,000 pretty 8,000. 77 high now 8. We over here, aren't we, Jeff? 8,000. 77 high. $8,000 pretty 8,000. Sold the bull 77.50. 5F. $32 will be the bull. And $6,500. $6,500 pretty 7 high. I got 65, 67 high, pretty high. 6,500, 7 high. Now 7,000 and 2 and a half. 72 and a half, 5, 75, pretty 5, now 7 high. 77 high, 8,000. $8,000 pretty 8. I got 77.50, 8,000. $8,000 pretty 8. 77.50, 8,000. $8,000 pretty 8. 77 half, $8,000. $8,000 pretty 8,000. Now 2 half, 82 and a half, pretty half. 8,000, 2 and a half. 82 and a half, pretty half. 8,000, 2 and a half. 8,000 and 2 and a half, pretty half. Sell the bull your way, 8,000. Triple S. 5-4 next is 54. And sell him $6,000 and $6,000 now 2 and a half. 6,000, 2 and a half, now 5, 75, now 7 high, 7 high, pretty high. $7,000 now 2 high, 72 and a half, pretty high, 5, 75, 77 high, 77, $8,000, 8,000, 2 and a half, 82 and a half, pretty high, 8,000, 2 and a half. I got 8,000, 2 and a half, 8,000, 2 and a half, pretty high, 8,000, 2 and a half. 8,000, 2 and a half, pretty half, 8,000, 82 and a half, 8,000, 2 and a half, sold the bull, TCF. Lot 30. And $6,000 on the bull here. Yes, $6,000 $6,000 not 2 and a half. I got 6,000, 2 and a half, 5, now 7 high, now 7,000. $7,000, now 7, everybody is 7. 7,000, 2 and a half, 72 and a half, pretty high, 72 high, 5, 7,500, now 77 high, 75, 7 half. I'm with Jeff. 75, 77 half. 75, 7 half. $8,000. $8,000. That's him. $8,000. Believe 8. 77 half. $8,000. Believe 8. 77. You want 8,000? Now 2.5. 82.5. Believe half. 82.5. 8,000. 2.5. Believe half. 8,000. 2.5. 82.5. TCF. Oh, no. L7 this trip, Kelly. L7. 5 will be the bull. Sell 55. And here we go. $6,000. $6,000. $6,000. $6,000. $6,000. And 2.5. I got 6,000. 2.5. 25. 6,500. 7.5. 60. $7,000 bill. 7,000. 2.5. 72.5. 7,000. 2.5. 72.5. 7,000. 2.5. I got 7,000 now. 2.5. 7,000. 2.5. Now 5. 7,500. 72.5. 5. 75. 72.5 now. 5. 7,500. 72.5 now. 500. Sold the bull. 72.50. Dunkin' Buzz. 23 will be your next bull in. And 6,500. $6,500. 7 half. I got 65, 7 half. $7,000. And 2.5. 72.5. 5. 75. 77 half. $8,000. 8,000. 2.5. 82.5. 5. 85. 85. 7 half. 85. 7 half. I got 85. 87 half. 8,500. 87 half. 85, 7 half. 85, 7 half. 85, 7 half. You right here, 85. Where you at? 87 half. Bronson, 8,500. $28's my bull. Bull number 28. And everybody 6,500. 67 high. 65, 7 high. Everybody high. 67 high. 7,000. 7,000, 2 and a half. 72 and a half high. 75 now. 7 high. 77, 8. 82 and a half. 8,500. 85, everybody 5. I got 82.50. 85. $8,500. 82 and a half. 5. 8,500. 82 and a half now. 5. 82 and a half. 8,500. Sold the bull. I'm over here now. 82 and a half. 5. 82.50. 5F. 21's on the bull. 21's on the bull. In somebody is $6,000 and $6,000 6,000 and 2 and a half. 6,000, 2 and a half. Now 5, 6,500, 6,500, 62 and 5 now 7 and a half. 6, 7 high, pretty high. I got 65, 7 high. 67 high, pretty high. 65, 7 high. 6, 7 high, $7,000 and $7,000 pretty 7,000, 2 and a half. 72 high 5, 7,500, 72 and a half 5, pretty 75. I got 72 and a half 5, 75, 72 and a half 5, $7,500 pretty 72.50. Bermudez? Nope, that's not the way we're gonna bill them. Cattle Investment Corp. Cattle Investment Corporation. 34 will be my bull. And sell 34. $7,000. Is $7,000. 2 and a half. 7,000 to 5. 7,500. 77 half. 77 half. $8,000. 8,000. 2 and a half. 82 and a half. Now 5. 85. I got 82.50. 8,500. 85, 7 half. 87 high. 85, 7 high. 85, 7 high. 87 high. 85, want to give 87 and a half. Sold the bull. 8,500. Overstreet. 65 will be the bull. All right, look at there. And everybody $7,000 and $7,000. Everybody $7,000 too high. I got 7,000, 72 and a half. Now 70 down 2 and a half. 5, 75, 72 and a half. 5, 77 half. 77 high. You say 77 half? I got 75, 77 half. 77 high, pretty high, pretty high. 75, 7 high, pretty high, pretty high. 75. I got 75 up top side. 77 high. 75, 7 high, pretty high. $8,000. Now 2.5. 8,000, 2.5. 82 and a half, pretty high, pretty half. 8,000 and 2.5. Sold the bow to you. $8,000. Cow Creek. Cow Creek. 69 will be my bull. 69 will be the bull. And right here, everybody, $7,000. And $7,000 bid. Now, everybody is 7,000. $7,000 bid is everybody is 7. $7,000 bid is everybody is 7,000. $7,000 bid is everybody is 6,000. And 2.5. 6,000, 2 high, 5. City 5 now, 7 high. City 7 high now, 7,000. Beat a minute now, 2.5. 75. 75, 7 high. 77 high. 77 high. 77 high. 75, 7 high. 77. I got 7,500. 77. $8,000. $8,000 be 8, be 8. 77 high, 8. $8,000 be 8, be 8. 77 high, $8,000 be 8, be 8. $8,000 be 8, be 8. 77 high, want to give 8,000. Sold the book. Oh, Dixie. 77.50 Dixie. 5-1. 51 will be next. And sell him. Everybody is 6,500. $6,500. 65 and 7 high. 65, 7 high, $7,000. And 7 2 high. 7,000 2 high. Now 5. 75, 72 and a half high. You're out, Jeff. I got 72 5. 77 high. $8,000. 8,000. 8 8 77 high. 8. $8,000 bid. 8,000 8 77 half. Now 8,000 2 half. Now 5. 85 85 85. 82 and a half. Now 5. 8,500. 82 and a half. Now 5. 85 85. 82 and a half. Now 5. 85. Are you done? 82 and a half. 5. Sold the bull. 82.50. Cow Creek. 68. 68, a big, long, stretchy bull. And $7,000. Here's 7, 2 and a half. I got 7,000, 2 and a half. 72 and a half, 75, 75, 77 half, 75, 7 half. 70, I got 7,500, 77 half, and $8,000. 8,000, Johnny, and 8,000. I got 77.50, got ahead of you, 8,000. $8,000. $8,000. $8,000. 77 half. Now 8. 8 now 2 and a half. 82 and a half. Pretty half. 82 half. 8,000 2 and a half. 82 and a half. 8,000 2 and a half. 82 half 5. 85 pretty 5. 85 pretty 5. 8,500. 82 and a half now 5. 85 pretty 5. I got 82 and a half 5. 85 pretty 5. Sold the bull. 82.50. Kilpatrick. Russell. Bull 71. 71 will be my bull. And still weighing 1670 right on the big young bull there. $7,000. And 2 and a half now. 5, 75, 7 half, 8,000. 8,000, 82 and a half. 85, 85, 85, 87 half. 87, $9,000. 9,000, 2 and a half. 92 and a half. Pretty high. 9,000, 2 and a half. 92 and a half. 9,000. You want 2 and a half? 92 and a half. 9,000, 2 and a half. 92 and a half, pretty high, 9,000 and 2 and a half. 92 and a half, pretty high. Sold the bull, 9,000, Cow Creek. And $6,500. $6,500. 65, 65, 7 high. I got 65, 7 high, pretty high. Now $7,000. Now 2 and a half. 7,000, 2 and a half. Now 5, 7,500. Now 77 high. 77 high, pretty $8,000. $8,000, pretty 82 high. 82 and a half, pretty high. 8,000, 2 and a half. 82 and a half, pretty high. 8,000, 2 and a half. 82 and a half, pretty high. 8,000 and 2 and a half, 5. 8,500, 82 and a half, 5. 85, pretty 5. 82 and a half now, 5. 8,500, 82 and a half, want to give 85. Sell him your way, 82.50. Duncan, 82.50. Duncan. 64. And long stretchy boy there, $7,000 is $7,000. Everybody is everybody is seven. $7,000. Everybody is 7,000. $7,000. Everybody is everybody is 7,000. $7,000. Everybody is 6,000. And now 6,000. And 2.5. I got 6,000, 2.5, 2.5, now 5. 65, 7.5, 60, 750, $7,000, 2.5, 72.5, everybody 5, 75, 77.5, 77.5, $8,000, 8,000, 2.5, 8,000, 2.5, everybody have. I got 8,000, 2.5, 82.5, everybody have. 8,000, 2.5, 82.5, everybody have. 8,000, now 2.5, 8,000, 82.5. Sold the bull, 8,000. D&D. We well over. $15 to go, I think I heard them say. 47 will be the bull. 47 will be the bull. And everybody is 6,500 and 7 high. Now 7,000 now 2 and high. 72 and high. Everybody 2 5. 7,500. 75. Did you do it? 75 7 high. 77 high. I got 75 7 high. 77 high. Everybody high. 75 7 high. $8,000. $8,000. Everybody 8. 77 high now. 8,000 now 2 and high. Ooh. Okay. Okay, we got bull 41. All right. $41's in the ear. Yeah, good deal. Thank you, Jeff. And everybody is selling 6,500. $6,500 7 high. 65 7 high. Everybody high. 7 high. $7,000. $7,000. Everybody is 7. 2 high. 72 and a high now. 5 75 77 high. 77 high. Everybody high. I got 75 7 high. 75 77 high. Everybody high. 75 7 high. $8,000. $8,000. Everybody 8. 77.50. 8,000. $8,000. Everybody 8. 77 high. 8,000. Everybody 8. 77 high. 8,000. $8,000. Everybody 8,000. Sold the bull 77.50. D&D. D&D cattle. Number 50. It is. And 6,500. $6,500. 7 high. I got 65, 7 high, 7,000, 2 and high, 72 and high, 5, 75, 7 high, 77, $8,000 be 2 and high, 82 and high, now 5, 85, 87 high, 87 high, 87 high, I got 85, 7 high, 87 high, and pretty high, 85, 7 high, 85, 87 high, 8,500, 87 high, 85, 7 high, and pretty high, 85, 7 high, 85, 87 high. Sold the bull 8,500 TCF. 58. 58 will be my next bull. And 6,500. $6,500 7 high. 65 7 high and pretty high. 65 7 high and pretty high. Now $7,000 and 7,000. Everybody 7,000. 67 high 7,000. $7,000. Everybody is 7. 7,000. 67 high. $7,000. Everybody is 7,000. $7,000. You on 7,000. $7,000. Everybody is 7. 6. Everybody is 7,000. 67 high. Want to give 7,000. Sold the bull 67.50, and that was Cattle Investments Corp. Cattle Investment Corporation. 48 will be my next bull. And everybody is 6,500. $6,500. 7 high. 65 7 high. Everybody high. $7,000. Now 72 and high. 72 and high. Everybody high. 7,000. 2 and high. I got 7,000, 2 and a half, pretty high, pretty high. 72 and a half, pretty high. 7,000, 2 and a half. 72 and a half now, 5. 75, pretty high, pretty high. I got 72 and a half, 5. 75, pretty high. 72 and a half, 5. $7,500, pretty high, pretty high. 72 and a half, 5. $7,500, pretty high, pretty high. 77 half. 77, $8,000. $8,000, pretty 8, pretty 8. 77.50, $8,000. I got 77.50, 8,000. 8,000, 2 and a half. 82 and a half, pretty half. 8,000, 2 and a half. 8,000, 2 and a half. He said no. 8,000, 2 and a half, pretty high, pretty high. Sold the bull, 8,000. Corona. 5-3. 53 my next bull. And here he is, 6,500. $6,500, pretty high. 6,500 now, 7 high. I got 6,500, 7 high. 65, 7 high, pretty high, pretty high. 67 high, pretty high, pretty high. $7,000. 7,000, now 7,000. I got 67, 7,000. 7,000, 6, now 2 and a half. 72 and a half, 5. 75, 7 high. 77 high, pretty high, pretty high. 75, 7 high. I got 75, 7 high, pretty high, pretty high. 77, $8,000. $8,000, pretty 8, pretty 8. 77, 50, 8,000. $8,000, pretty 8, pretty 8. 77 half, 8. $8,000, pretty 8, pretty 8. 77 high, now $8,000, pretty 8, pretty 8,000. Sold the bull, 77.50 Corona. Lot 25. Tag 25. And pretty 6,500. 6,500, 7 high. 65, 7 high. $7,000, pretty not 2 and a half high. 75, 77 high. $8,000, pretty 8, pretty 8,000. 8,000, 8,000, out 2 and a half. 82 and a half. 8,000, 2 and a half. I got 8,000, now 2 and a half. 82 and a half, pretty half. 8,000, 2 and a half. 82 and a half. 8,000, 2 and a half, pretty high, pretty half. 82 and a half, pretty half. 8,000 and 2 and a half. 82 and a half. Sold the bull, 8,000. Triple S. 31 will be my bull. 31 will be next up. And pretty $7,000. And $7,000, pretty is everybody is 7,000. $7,000, pretty is everybody is 7,000. $7,000, pretty is 7,000, pretty is everybody is 7,000. 7,000, 6,000, now 2 and a half. I got 6,000, 2 and a half, 2 and a half, pretty high, pretty high. 2 high, 5. City 5, pretty high, 7 high, now 7. $7,000 bill, 7,000 now 2 and a half. 72 and a half, pretty high. 7,000, 2 and a half. Out to 5, 75, pretty 5. 72 and a half, 5. 7,500, 72 and a half now, 5, pretty 5, 72 and a half, 5. 7,500, 72 and a half now, 5, pretty 5, 72 and a half. 7,500, sell him your way, 72.50. 5F. 52 will be my bull. Bull 52. And everybody is $7,000. Is $7,000. Everybody is $7,000. Everybody is $7,000. $7,000. Everybody is $7,000. $7,000. Everybody is $6,000. 6,000 too high. I got 6,000 2 and a half. 2 and a half, pretty high, pretty high. 6,000 2 and a half. 60 2 and a half, pretty high, pretty high. 6,000 2 and a half. You said 2 and a half. 6,000 2 and a half. 60 2 and a half, pretty high, pretty high. 6,000 2 and a half, 5. 65, pretty high. 65 and 7 high. 67 high. 65 7 high, pretty high, pretty high. 65 7 high. 67 high, pretty high, pretty high. 65 7 high. So 7 high, $7,000. $7,000, pretty is 7,000. 7,000 now 5. 75, 77 high. 77 up, $8,000. $8,000 now 2 and a half. 82 and a half. 8,000 and 2 and a half. 8,000 2 and a half. Well, I'm gonna sell that blonde, that calf. But I forgot how much, Kelly? 8,000. D&D, 8,000. That's a. She was behind you. 26. 26 to be the bull. Everybody is 6,500. 67 high. 65 high. Pretty high. Pretty high. 65 high. 67 high. Pretty high. $7,000 out 2 and a half. 72 and a half, liberty high, 5, 75, liberty 5, liberty 5, 72 and a half, 5, 75, 75, liberty 5, liberty 5, got 75, 72 and a half bid now, 5, 75, liberty 5, liberty 5, 72 and a half, 5, 75, now 77 high, 75, 7 high, 75, 77 high, liberty high, liberty high, 75, 7 high, liberty high, liberty high, 75, 7 high, 75, 77 a high, sellable your way, 75. D and D. Yeah, you haven't bought one from over there yet. We still got a few. That'll work. As long as we pick you up. I like to not have got you back there. I will admit to that. If you hadn't hollered, I wouldn't have got you. 29. Boys, we getting right here at the end of these things. And 6,500, $6,500 liberty 5, 65, $6,500 liberty 5, 65, $6,500 liberty 5, $6,000 and $6,000 liberty is too high, 6,000, 2.5, now 5, 65, 7 high, 67 high, $7,000 now 2.5, 72 and a high, liberty high. I got 7,000 now, 2.5, liberty high, liberty high, 7,000, 2.5, 72 and a high, liberty high, liberty high, 7,000, 2.5, 72 and a high, liberty high, liberty high, 7,000 and 2.5, 7,000, 72 and a half. Sold the bull, 7,000. Kilpatrick. $38 will be my bull. And bull number 38 here. And $7,000. And $7,000 be used everybody is 7,000. $7,000 be used everybody is 7,000. $7,000 be used everybody is 7. $7,000 be used everybody is $6,000. $6,000 2.5. Now 2 high, 5, 7 high. 67 high, now 7 down 2.5. 72 and a high, liberty high. 7,000 2.5. I got 7,000 right here. 72 and a half. 72 and a half. I got 7,000 right here. 2.5. Now 5. 75. I got 72 and a half. 5. 75, liberty 5. 72 and a half. 5. 75, liberty 5, liberty 5. 72 and a half. 5. 75, liberty 5. 72 and a half. Want to give 7,500. Sold the bull. 72.50. 5F. 37 will be the bull. And right here, 3 more after this one. And $7,000 is $7,000 bid now. Everybody is 7,000. 7,000. $7,000 bid is everybody too high. 7,000 2.5. Was he bidding? No, he wasn't. $6,000. $6,000 bid not too high. 6,000 too high. 5. City 5 7 high. Now $7,000 bill now 2.5. 72 and a half. 25, 75, 77 high, 77 high, and a pretty high, and a pretty high, 75, 7 high. I got 75, 7 high. Now $8,000, $8,000, 77 high, $8,000, $8,000, pretty 8, pretty 8, 77 high, $8,000, bid, $8,000, pretty 8, pretty 8, 77 high, now $8,000, pretty 8, pretty 8, pretty 8,000. Sold the bull, 77.50, 5F. 39 my bull, 39 my bull. And everybody is $7,000 and 7 2.5. I got 7,000 2.5, 2.5, everybody high, everybody high, 25, 75, 77 high, $8,000 bid, 8,000 now 2.5, 82 and a high, everybody high, 8,000 2.5. I'm 8,000 with Bronson, 82 and a half, 8,000, 82 and a half, 5, 8,500. Now he's out, 8,500. You're out, 85, 85, 87 half, 87 half. I got 85, 7 high. 87 high, pretty high, pretty high, 85, 7 high, pretty high, pretty high, pretty high. Sold the bull, 8,500, Bronson. Oh, that's Mostioka. Same deal, just a different name. 49 is my bull. And 6,500, 67 high, 65, 7 high, pretty high, $7,000 bill, and 2.5, 75, pretty high, pretty 77 high, 77, $8,000 bill now, 2.5, 82 and a high, pretty high. I got 8,000, 82 and a high, 8,000, 2.5, 82 and a high, pretty high, pretty high, 8,000, 2.5, 8,000, 2.5, pretty high, pretty high, 8,000, 82 and a half, 8,000, 2.5. Sold the bull, 8,000. Will Corona. 43. Guys, this is the last bull. Guaranteed. All right, you heard him. Just a little gimpy this morning, but he's guaranteed, all good to go. $6,000 and $6,000 be the last one today. $6,000 is 6 too high. 6,000 2 and a half. Did you say 2 and a half? 6,000 2 and a half. I took 6,000 here, 2 and a half. 60 2 and a half. Liberty high. 6,000 2 and a half. 60 2 and a half. Liberty high. I got 6,000 down front, 2 and a half. 60 2 and a half. Liberty high. 6,000 2 and a half. Are you through? You done? 6,000 2 and a half. Now 5. Now 7.5, 67.5, 65, 7.5, liberty high, 65, 7.5, sold the bull, 6,500. Austin Williams. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. We sure have enjoyed having you here today. Next week, Sepfin is coming into town. They'll have some Angus bulls, some red Angus bulls, some black Angus bulls, some Charolais bulls, some Angus bulls. That'll be next week, and that'll wind up our bull sales for the year. Hey, guys, we thank you all.